Welcome to today's episode of the E.N.G Media Podcast. We have two very exciting guests, Jordan and Alyssa with Enter Health. For those of you just joining the podcast, I am Christian Gannon, the co-founder of E.N.G Media, and we specialize in helping software and tech companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your software or tech business to the next level, make sure to stick around. So let's get right into it. I understand that Enter Health specializes in helping healthcare providers streamline and optimize their revenue cycle management. Your AI-powered platform automates everything from claims creation to payment posting and denial follow-up, ensuring faster reimbursements, greater accuracy, and full transparency so providers can focus on delivering care without the burden of managing billing and collections in-house. I think our viewers would love to hear more about your backgrounds. Could you both tell me a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. Um, I guess we go ladies first on this one.
All right. So I'm the director of marketing here at Enter, and I've been in marketing for a little over a decade now, and I've been through several different industries and sectors, but for the most part, I felt most at home in healthcare. I like not just the human element of it, but having that impact and actually helping people through either technology or what we do. It's been quite a ride with Enter. It's been very exciting, but leading the marketing efforts and watching it grow from a tiny startup to this platform that's just enormous is something we're really excited about. And we'll talk more about that in this episode.
Of course.
Yeah. Um, so I'm Jordan, and the co-founder and CEO of Enter, and I've been building software and technology companies since I was 19. Um, Really, the world of healthcare has become pretty much everything we focus on now, and the universe of it is it's remarkable how even still, like, in the age of AI and in 2025, how legacy the revenue cycle management and really just overarching healthcare infrastructure is. Um, and it's something that I think that myself and the team are really passionate about solving. And I think when we break down like what is this legacy system of revenue cycle management, I think it's probably helpful for your audience to actually understand like what is this thing that we solve for. So revenue cycle management, or RCM, is the process of collecting money from insurance carriers and patients for providers. So for doctors, healthcare systems, hospitals, practices, you name it. So every single day they see a bunch of patients, hundreds or thousands or however many patients they see there. And they have all of these encounters living inside of what's called an electronic medical record system. And the process for revenue cycle is, how do we convert all of that data into actual money? And the process is remarkably challenging. And it is one that is super cumbersome and requires all kinds of disparate systems, but tons and tons and tons, like armies of administrators or billers or collectors to navigate these really challenging waters. So it's like, all right, how do I take all of these encounters and convert those into actual insurance claims? Because that's where the party starts. Then I have to send these insurance claims to all kinds of different insurance carriers. So United Healthcare or Aetna or Blue Cross BCB, Blue Cross Blue Shield. These are all, fairly household names at this point. But um, the process of actually sending them these claims and then getting these payments back, massively cumbersome and really, really technical. So this is what Enter ultimately solves. And where before, basically 100% of claims required some kind of human intervention, with Enter, uh, we're at the point where over 90% plus of all claims going end to end, EMR to the bank, require zero human intervention.
Gotcha. And that makes a lot of sense. And from your perspective, either of you, what kind of major trends are you seeing in the revenue cycle management and billing space? Is there anything maybe that you're just becoming aware of or is kind of changing in the industry, maybe?
Well, I think at Enter, um, since we came into the market not so long ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think our job and our goal has always been to lead uh, the innovation in the revenue cycle space, and really in general in healthcare. And so I think out of the gates, we've been we've been leading, and I think we've been building the most interesting and um, cutting edge or bleeding edge technology that exists in revenue cycle. So I think when when you ask that question, I'm like, well, what did we do yesterday? Because that's probably going to be the most interesting thing.
And I think that's a
Yeah.
great answer. And Alyssa, if you wanted to comment on that as well.
Yeah, I think in terms of trends in the industry, I'm seeing other competitors using AI as kind of a crutch, or they're cosplaying as an AI company, but really it's just duct taping all these automated systems and then layering it on top of the legacy system. And then down the line, it may not work in the future. And so what we do is we actually not just look ahead, but we kind of predict everything that will happen in several different ways. And I'm seeing it where it just feels like a gold rush where everyone's just rushing to show their solution, but in reality, people are just pushing automation. They're not really pushing pattern recognition. They're not pushing predictive analytics or pushing the fact that if this is an AI that can truly grow and evolve with your practice. And I think with a lot of these legacy systems, that doesn't really happen. But with us, we take this into account and we want to evolve alongside our providers, alongside these practices. And I think ultimately that makes healthcare better for not just providers, but also for the patients.
I'd
Of
also just
course. And that
give
makes
you one more tiny little add on top of that, right? I think what we see today in the
mhm.
world of healthcare is lots of point solutions coming out. So a point solution solving eligibility or a point solution attempting to solve prior authorizations, which is extremely hard to do with a point solution. The approach that we've taken at Enter from the get-go was a holistic approach. We're actually going to go and take every single core component of what is considered this massive back office architecture, build them all holistically from scratch and proprietarily, all inside of our platform, and conform them all to what we believe is the gold standard, which is really this kind of like AI-driven end-to-end approach. So again, it's very much like a point solution, which again, really easy to vibe code your way into a point solution. The real question is like, does it actually make a significant impact? And what we've seen from our clients, or what we've seen just from testing all kinds of different tools, is that rarely does a point solution truly solve something significant. It actually just tends to increase the administrative burden in the world of healthcare, not necessarily across the whole universe of tech. But like in the world of healthcare, just because it's so heavily integrated in all of these existing kind of um, these critical infrastructural points, so EMRs or insurance clearinghouses or contract management systems. Like there's all of these really critical core pieces of infrastructure that you're reliant on, and oftentimes vibe coding a point solution doesn't actually result in a helpful impact.
Of course, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think not only in healthcare, I think across the board, these point solutions continue to pop up, especially, for example, some of the people that I've talked with use a lot of agentic AI solutions, right, within their business for the back end. And it's not that holistic approach as you're talking about, and maybe in a little bit different market, but they're using all these different agentic AI solutions, but they're paying for 5 or 6 of them when it would have been nice if you could find one, right? And so that's just like the comparison I'm making in my head, and maybe for some of our viewers to kind of understand as well. And correct me if I'm wrong on that too.
I think you're on track. It's challenging to immediately understand how the complexities and nuance of RCM and what it ultimately solves. But I think you're definitely on track. It's a fair analogy.
Of course, and thank you. And on to my next question. What do you think right now is making the landscape more challenging, or maybe on the flip side, easier to operate in right now?
Well, I will say
Hmm.
this: after selling or trying to sell and selling Enter for the last 7 years, we are experiencing incredible tailwinds from customers and from the market in general. People are um, pretty pumped about how do we. I think any most CEOs and most CFOs are saying they're looking at their stack and they're saying, well, we've got a huge infrastructure. We're paying 5, 6, 7, 8% cost to collect, and we're applying that to all of these different things in my revenue cycle. Um, AI is a thing. hey team, let's go and find the best AI solution, and let's see if they can actually do what do what we think that they can do. So I think that we're never before in the world of healthcare have we seen such a rush or an urgency to start to apply technology to their operations, especially the revenue cycle. So it's really cool to see that. I think everybody's pretty excited about it. Most people are like a little skeptical. They're like, I don't actually believe that this is real. Or they enter, no way, this is. We get. I think the thing, Alyssa, we hear the most is too good to be true. So it's always fun to be able to dispel that and actually push and show the proof in the pudding. But we're seeing a huge amount of demand and the demand growth because of this AI wave.
Yeah, and I think with that demand, people are just paired with this frustration. They're very fed up with how it's always been. A lot of people accept that it's always been that way, and a lot of higher ups or C-level executives are throwing their hands in there. They're like, I can't take this anymore. Like, is there a solution out there that actually does everything that we need and can get us a higher ROI or improve our numbers across the board? And there is, and that's why we're talking about it. But I think more and more, as we're seeing collapse with a lot of healthcare systems that just aren't adapting as quickly, people are now realizing, oh, now this is definitely the time to adapt and evolve. But yeah, I feel that's where it's headed.
Of course, and thank you both for sharing. And kind of to add on to that, I know that in healthcare and in a lot of different industries, AI adoption rates can be a little bit slower, right? Just because of the privacy and the security that it takes to deal with certain, like in healthcare or the revenue billing cycle, like personal data, or on the healthcare side, even more like lab reports and things that people use for like scientific reasons to advance our medicine, but we can't be sharing consumer data. What certifications or kind of compliance members have you guys implemented to ensure data security and privacy?
So many. Yes, I mean my my co-founder and my background come from the world of Bitcoin. We actually own Bitcoin wallets, and we had to securely store the world's hardest to secure asset on Earth. And we were never, storing, millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of crypto at the time, and we're never hacked. So I think storing hard to secure data is in our DNA. But when it comes to healthcare in general, you're talking about HIPAA compliance, you're talking about PHI, you're talking about SOC 2 Type 2. Um, I trust in all kinds of other things. So I think it's paramount that uh, a anybody in the RCM game has to have uh, like beyond premier standards of how do you do encryption, how do you do security, how are you managing um, all of your data. So it's critical and something that we focus on a constant basis.
Of course, and thank you for sharing. I think that it's super important, and as you mentioned, the PHI. Like I think before the podcast, me and Alyssa had talked about that. That I actually had someone on the podcast previously that was a PHI sanitizer company, and we just went into depth really on the importance of that compliance and how important consumer data is, especially in the healthcare space. And I think one of the numbers she gave me is that on the dark web, I think uh, or like healthcare data is 500 times more expensive than a social security number,
Is that
which
right?
is something that I mean that's what she shared with me. So
That's a
I
good one,
will
Alyssa.
don't quote me on that, but
That's a good
just
one.
something that's crazy, right? So
No, I mean,
um,
it is. It's super valuable. It tells you a lot. I mean, you look at the the Change Healthcare, like when United, the Change Healthcare hack basically crippled, um, it crippled provider offices for like I want to say it was probably for like a 2 3 week process, 2 or 3 week period. And then in addition to that, like the long tail effect of it was United Healthcare. I think we still have, there were clients that we have that were still they were like 6 months to 8 months behind on payments from UHC, which was all impacted by this Change Healthcare hack. So it is an enormous security risk. Like healthcare is very, very serious. Um, yeah, scary.
definitely is. It definitely is. And shifting a little bit, I know that you both shared your roles when we started out on the podcast, but could you tell me what each of you are directly responsible for within Enter and how your day maybe typically unfolds, personal or as unpersonal as you want to?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Um, well, as the CEO, my job is to make sure that we have the that that everybody on the team is focused on the right mission and is ultimately executing on the vision of the co-founder, but really kind of the collective vision of the organization. Um, my job is to make sure that everybody's excited about working on that mission and is super focused and is executing their asses off. Um, and my job is really just to hold everybody accountable to making sure that they're executing really well. Um, additional to that, lots of sales, lots of product, lots of design, lots of marketing. And then the other job of the CEO is just to make sure we never run out of money. So that's also pretty important.
Of course.
Yeah, with me, it's more so just getting a pulse on what the current climate is with both AI and RCM. I mean, there's a lot of fluff out there and kind of want to cut through that, but at least in the terms of healthcare, healthcare's always been like this burning car crash scene that you can't help but rubberneck. And it's something that we always want to resolve. But at the same time, I'm looking at other solutions, what they're up to, and how they're getting the message across. But part of what I do is the storytelling. Like, how do you explain it so that it's not because no one gets it, or if they don't want to, it's just, are they willing to accept a story that can actually resolve most of these issues that they face on a day to day? So that's kind of where I feel most at home with. A lot of the times, I also look at how companies communicate with AI, and I'm finding more and more, and it's almost developing to a pet peeve, is where we become so reliant on AI that I actually like go line by line reading them, wondering, did you use AI to write this? And if you did, I lose trust in you. Because what we're building is a tool for humans. Ultimately, humans are the ones who are the end users, and we want to communicate like humans. I don't want to communicate to you like an AI. Even though I do work for an AI company, I want to talk to you like a friend or someone who's here to help you. I don't want a robot just spewing everything back. So it gets really telling to me sometimes when I come across phrases that are like, it's not just this, it's that, or these common like chat GPT phrases I hear now and then. But I think the cultural zeitgeist now has kind of evolved to just relying on ChatGPT so much that I want to make sure that Enter remains honest, truthful, and a true AI that can actually fix things and kind of guide you along the way, not just doing everything for you.
Of course, and I think to add to that, I was talking with someone in my network last week, and he was saying that it's almost an edge now if you're communicating without AI, which is something crazy to think about, right? If I can tell your email was written with AI, I can tell your LinkedIn message or something you reached out to me, like that's a pet peeve within our business. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Is what the tell all for us is if I see dashes in your messaging. Like large language models, especially chat, loves to put dashes everywhere. Um, and you probably have noticed that too. But I think that's a huge point of just AI should help you leverage your time so that with the human touch, things that you need to focus on, you can spend more time and have that kind of time and use AI to leverage on the stuff that maybe happens on the back end. So thank you for mentioning that.
It's a real
And
heartbreaker
for
because I
both of you,
used to use dashes all the time pre-GPT.
me and you both, but and my partner actually mentioned it to me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess it does," because I didn't register in my brain because I was the same as you, Jordan.
Yeah.
um, but for both of you, when it comes to measuring success, what financial or performance metrics matter most to your business? Is it revenue growth, client retention, marketing return on investment, or maybe something else entirely?
Well, I've got kind of a milestone that um, I've wanted to hit for quite some time, but I want Enter at some point in the future, not so distant future, to process 10% of all claims in healthcare. Um, I also think about this crazy stat, which is that if you break out revenue cycle in general, um, the cost to collect on average in the world of healthcare is about 5%, oftentimes a little bit higher, but call it 5%. And the US GDP, healthcare is 20% roughly of US GDP. So 5% of that 20% is 1%. So basically, revenue cycle management comprises of 1% of all GDP. When we look at Enter, our job is to automate 1% of all GDP. So those are some of the overarching North Stars that I think we all get really excited about solving every day.
Of course. And looking ahead, what are kind of the goals for the next 12 months? Are there any new products or features being launched that maybe our viewers should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, huge amount of product launches coming up in the within the next month, 2 months, 3 months. Crazy projects that we've been working on for years that are finally coming to true fruition that we're going to be able to expose. So we're going to do a little event. I forget what date it is, but Alyssa knows. But we're
June
going to be doing
25th.
yeah. So on June
June
25th,
25th on a Wednesday.
we're going to do an event where folks can apply and or you can reserve your seats and join us for a nice little a live demo event for a lot of the new a lot of what basically the future of revenue cycle and kind of the future of healthcare is going to look like.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I think, just to reiterate, I think it's on June 5th or June 25th at 12 EST, correct?
Yep, Eastern
So,
time.
and where can they find this? Is it on your website to apply for a seat?
We'll post about it on LinkedIn, and I'll insert a place for people to fill out a form to RSVP. But we're excited to unveil these 3 huge features that I believe are going to set the gold standard for RCM and will probably change the whole face of RCM for all offices in the future.
Awesome. And going into my last question, it's a fun one, but a tough one. Hypothetically, if you had a magic wand and could solve just one problem within your business, what would that be?
I think with marketing, at least, it's the getting rid of this reputation where AI is the end all be all. A lot of people are dooming and glooming about this, but I feel like when you look at AI, it should be something that helps you along the way, not just something that kind of threatens you. A lot of times, I think people are overwhelmed and are unsure of how to upskill alongside AI so that they remain relevant. But paving that path for humans, at least, I think would be something that I'd definitely use a magic wand to help with.
Of course.
Well, I'm going to invite all of your listeners to join us on the 25th, where they'll be able to see my magic wand in action.
Of course. But did you have anything else to add on that, Jordan, or are we leaving it on a cliffhanger there?
No, cliffhanger, man.
Okay, perfect. And if people want to connect with you, both of you, or learn more about what Enter is doing, where could they go and how could they connect?
You can find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Our company page, enter.health on LinkedIn, or Jordan's often posting on LinkedIn as well, and X in addition. So,
Yep, at Jordan Kelly.
Perfect. I will leave the links to the Enter LinkedIn in the description, as well as Jordan's X if you'd like. And I highly recommend you check out Enter. I'll also leave the website. I thought it was very insightful to me for someone outside of the healthcare space and kind of understanding. And I thought the messaging was very good to someone who maybe isn't in kind of the revenue cycle management space. But thank you guys again for joining the podcast today and your time and insights. And we'll see you guys on the next podcast.